Alright, welcome back to some more Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Well, I got a little bit of bad news. I spent recording this last part 2 hours on it, and yeah, because of a setting that I forgot to change on my recording program when I recorded this, it kind of looks all choppy. Like, really bad, like 10 frames per second. And I had two choices. Either record it again and waste 2 hours of my life, go bye-bye, staying up till 6 o'clock in the morning to record it, or record it again and hopefully maybe I can get it done sooner. And, well, quicker, and also, just get it done, because I kind of didn't, like, whenever I have to re-record something again, and it's 2 hours worth of stuff that I did not, that I recorded, part of me does not like going back to recording said thing. But since we're at the very end of the game, yeah, but I will try to make the reactions. If someone makes a stupid comment like, "Luke, why'd you act surprised? You said you beat the game," it's because that was a reaction that I had before. So, yeah. Or at least I'll try to. I don't know if I acted too surprised through so many things, but I think I did point out certain things throughout the playthrough, but I will try not to point them out now, because I already know what happened, so yeah. But I do apologize, but you can't help technical difficulties happen. Otherwise, this part would have gone up yesterday, then there would have been a part to go up today, and then there would have been a part to go up on New Year's Eve, and the New Year's Eve part would have been an hour long. So I don't even know how long this part's gonna be and how long the New Year's Eve part's gonna be. So yeah. So again, I do apologize, but it's better than having to record, say, like 4 hours worth of stuff that I had to do for Dual Destinies because of how it came out. Yeah, that was not fun. So yeah, plus I think I made it 2 hours long. Like, I think I made it 30 minutes longer because of me not sure what to do or whatever. So anyways, enough jibber jabber. Apologies have been said and done. Let's get back to the game and finish this and try to have it up before the ending up before New Year's Eve, please.
Mr. Cantabella, I would like to apologize for putting too much pressure on your daughter. Only your words can bring her back from the brink of madness. Let her hear the truth from her own father. All according to your plan, Layton. You've driven Espella into a corner in order to push me into the wall. I had no other choice. Espella, please listen to me. You haven't done anything wrong. You didn't cause that accident. You have suffered so much thinking that you were Bezella. I must take blame for that. You, Mr. Cannabella? I sacrificed everything up to make up for what I've done. But all I managed to do was inflict more pain upon others. Is that not so, Dark Law?
You know what? Maybe I'll do this. I'll put up Unlisted Part 83 in the description below, so you can watch it and see how unbearable it is, because it's actually uploaded on YouTube right now, and I was getting ready to type it in, like, the description and stuff, before I looked at it and was like, oh my god, I can't put that up! So yeah, I'll probably just put them up unlisted. You can watch them if you want, but otherwise, I wouldn't watch those. I think the sound quality's okay, but just frame rate issues. Really sucky.
Now that you are willing to talk, Mr. Cantabella, would you mind telling us your story with me waving my hands up like this for some reason? Yours as well as Espella's and Miss Docklaw's? Very well. This story, too, began when I was a young lad, when Newton and I were still youths, full of dreams and hope. As you already know, we discovered the underground ruins, and deep within them lay that accursed bell, the Bell of Ruin. At the time, we still lacked the knowledge to decipher any of the writings we found there. This bell is magnificent! It's bound to make the most beautiful sound! I have an idea! Why don't we make this bell the symbol of our town? How do you propose to do that? Let's build a bell tower for it. Then we can ring it on special occasions.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Then it's settled. When we grow up, let's do it. Okay, just don't forget about it. The two of us chose different paths in life. I studied management in London, while Newton devoted himself to the study of natural sciences. And then, you made a fortune following the invention of a new anesthetic. We both got married around that time, and each of us had a daughter.
And this is the part where I realize... Wait a second. You mean Espella was born shortly after your company gained funding?
Let me bow like this so many more times.
He's done that like 50 times by this point, it feels like. And he was only in here last episode, or the last half of the epilogue.
That's right. We eventually returned to our hometown and set about realizing our childhood dream. Having built the bell tower in the middle of the town square, we retrieved the bell itself from the underground ruins. We aspired to make it a symbol of prosperity for this unindustrialized town. The bell was to be officially displayed during the annual fire festival. It would be rung in the morning following the night of celebration. Pardon the interruption, but at the time, were you aware of the meaning behind the bell's name? Obviously, we were not. Thinking back to my ignorance at the time, a chill now runs down my spine.
if you're going to find something in ruins or whatever behind a locked door, let me just make this clear. Obviously, there's gonna be some kind of curse to it or something that you should probably be aware of before you actually use said bell. Cause, yeah, it'd be like taking an ancient artifact from a pyramid or something. Only to decipher what it is afterwards, and the deciphering came out to be something like, if this shall be taken outside of its resting place, the holder will be doomed to be cursed forever. Yeah, that's why you probably should learn how to decipher something or have a decipherer with you before you take stuff out of their resting places. Because, I mean, next thing you know, no, I'm not going to even say the joke that I made in that one because... Okay, fine, I'll say it. It'd be like taking something out of its resting place and you're cursed to have everything that you touch turn to crap. Yeah, that was a stupid reference that I'm not going to even say.
Newt and I went to the bell tower the day before the festival. Only one more day to go! We've waited a long time for this! That we have! This town will no longer be the same after tomorrow.
Hindsight.
The bell weighed so much that ringing it was not easy. We tackled that problem by constructing a special mechanism, which we installed in the belfry.
Daddy, I want to hear the bell. Can I make it ring? Daddy, please, let me ring it.
Espella, who was there with us, was utterly enchanted by the bell. She wasn't a bad child, but she was very stubborn and would rarely listen to me when she wanted something. I told her a story to try and convince her to leave the bell alone.
Espella, listen carefully. You mustn't ring this bell.
But why? Why can't I, Daddy?
You know about Espella the witch.
Uh-huh. She's an evil fire witch who uses magic to hurt people.
If you ring this bell, Espella will come out and possess you.
Possess me? You mean I'll turn into Espella?
That's right, Espella. When Espella possesses someone, she uses them to do terrible things. That's why you must never ring this bell, sweetheart.
I understand, Daddy.
There's a good girl.
And the first story told by the storyteller.
The legend of Espella has been passed down around these parts for centuries. It probably originated from beliefs of the tribes that populated in this area in the past. What I told Espella was just a silly story I invented for the occasion. It was only meant to stop her from ringing the bell. I could not have imagined that it would have such far-reaching consequences.
It's all coming back to me now. I remember that day. On the day of the fire festival, just around the time when the preparations ended and everything was about to begin, I sneaked out of our house. I took Mom's pendant with me.
Your mother's pendant? Do you mean this one?
Yes, it belonged to my mom.
We needed to limit access to the bell, so we made 2 keys. We decided to make them into pendants, and each gave one to our respective wives. Both are needed to access the belfry.
I saw you and Mr. Belduke use them, so I told Eve to meet me at the bell tower.
Daddy says Bezella will come out if I ring the bell, but if I do it just a little...
And that's what you call an innocent child right there.
I want to try it while the festival is going on. I hope Eve doesn't forget her mum's pendant.
So it is as I thought. Miss Darklaw, you are Mr. Belduke's daughter.
Yeah, this was when it was like, oh, wow, I would have never thought someone with white hair born a dark-haired daughter when Espella has blonde hair and the storyteller has white hair, and apparently they had white hair when they were younger too, so, which kinda is that anime thing. But anyways,
Well done, Inquisitor. I was almost afraid you would fail to make that connection.
What in the... Wait. Wait. This is too much for one day!
and that is why I made these all separate, besides the fact that I could have a mistake if I did it all at once.
Order! Order in the court! Lady Darklaw, you mean to say that you are Sir Belduke's daughter?
Yes, my real name is Eve Belduke. I'm the alchemist's daughter.
This is unbelievable!
I also sneaked out of my house that evening, clutching my mother's pendant in my hand. I did just as you asked me to, did I not, Espella?
Espella, my mum's going to be so angry if she notices I took the pendant. Don't worry so much. I just really want to ring that bell. I want to hear it.
I rang the bell against my father's warning, and so Bezella possessed me. Because of me, the town, and everyone in it, they're all gone.
No! It's not your fault! Stop blaming yourself! Supposedly, the former inhabitants of this area also used to fall unconscious upon the sound of that bell. Perhaps they experienced a similar nightmare. It was I who brought the Bell of Ruin into this town. The one to blame for this calamity is not some witch, it's me!
I brought destruction upon this town. I am Bezella.
Espella! You're going to drive your dad crazy if you keep repeating that!
Seeing you like this is giving me a strong feeling of deja vu.
How can you be so evil? Are you happy now? I'm afraid we're in the dark as regards Miss Darklaw's sense of deja vu.
As regards, that kind of didn't make any sense. I don't even remember reading that like that. As regards to Miss Darklaw's sense of deja vu, or in regards to Miss Darklaw's whatever.
Only 4 people survived the fire.
Only 4.
Espella and Eve, who were in the belfry, and the only 2 residents who did not participate in the festival, Newton and I.
Which brings into the point, where the heck were you all at? Like, during the festival? Isn't this something that's important to your town? So you would have thought that they would have been at the festival as well, and kind of sort of keeping an eye on their daughters and in the belfry as well, because they would be the ones to ring it, like, right?
And where were you at the time, if you'll permit my asking?
And where were they? Where were they?
We were investigating those fateful ruins. That's why we didn't notice anything until it was too late.
Let's hang the bell up before we are given the instructions of what it actually is. And then after hanging it and, like, it's in the town and stuff, let's go back and check on those instructions. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It was getting near the time at which we planned to ring the bell, so we headed towards the town. Then we saw it. The town had been burnt to ashes, the air shimmering from the heat.
That's too awful for words.
We searched for survivors, sick with anxiety. Eventually, we found our daughters in the bell tower. Espella was unresponsive like a doll. Eve was crying at her side. Our relief at having found them vied with terror caused by the disaster. The worst night of my life ended, pierced with the first rays of sunshine. But then, it seemed Espella was already lost to us. We had lost her to a Bezella. She wouldn't speak, eat, or even leave her room. She thought she was Bezella, and that she had destroyed the town. I couldn't get that out of her head. What she saw from the bell tower must have been so terrifying. But it wasn't shock from what she had seen. My own words had put her in that state. Had I only not told her that stupid story! We had been grasping at straws, trying to find a way to save Espella's mind. But, whatever we did, her eyes would remain impassive and empty. In the end, I came upon a certain idea that offered us a glimpse of hope. What was it? The suspense! It's too much for my aging heart! Oh, my heart! Oh! I believe I may know what it is, what it was. It was the only way to get through to little Espella. Inquisition! What are you talking about? What was Mr. Cantabella's idea for saving his daughter from insanity?
And that would be
The first story.
Have a look.
Have a look! We discovered this in Espella's room. And that is... It's a handmade picture book. The illustrations and handwriting are truly exquisite. That's the first story I wrote. I made it for Espella after that dreadful fire. Oh! The storyteller's first story! It was a It was but a simple children's story. The plot was very straightforward. The townsfolk joined forces to banish evil witches who served Bezella.
Espella, do you understand now? You aren't Bezella. Bezella is somewhere out there, sending out other witches to do bad things to the people of our town.
Witches, magic, the town perishing in flames. Espella was mentally broken, and I couldn't get through to her in any other way. I talked to her as if magic and witches were real, avoiding any mention of that fire.
Daddy. Are witches real?
Espella spoke to me for the first time in so many days. I was beyond myself with joy and replied without even thinking.
Oh, yes, they are. They're hiding in the town, among the people.
But it's just a fairy tale.
I was desperate. I feared she would close herself to me again. Now, in hindsight, I see what an utter fool I was. I made an irreversible mistake, yet again.
No, it's not. Everything your daddy writes comes true. The bad witches will get their comeuppance. I will write a story about it.
And so, I wrote another story for my daughter, a story about mischievous witches getting caught. This time, I had the story acted out in front of Espella. You had it acted out? Back then, I wasn't the only one tormenting myself over the mental state of my daughter. Newton was going through hell, too. His own daughter had been badly scarred by the event. Isn't that right, Eve?
My father and I repaired a building that had survived the fire and continued to live in this town. Espella wasn't even able to leave her room. We couldn't leave her behind when she needed all the help she could get. Mr. Cantabella showed us this book one day. Then, he made an unusual request of us.
I'd like to make this story real. Would you be willing to help me do so?
To our surprise, he was entirely serious. Seeing that, we gladly offered our help. A story about evil-doing witches getting caught and punished, and Bezella the source of them all.
Were you paying attention, Espella? Witches got what they deserved, and peace has been restored to the town.
Espella smiled at the end. Then she whispered to herself,
It wasn't me.
When I saw her smile, I felt as if something broke inside me. I couldn't afford to let her be sad again. Maybe if Bezella were to exist in this town, Espella would stop thinking she herself harbored the Great Witch. And so, I continued writing stories about witches. Even I would act them out for Espella.
And so the story grew bigger.
And gradually, the number of characters in my story increased.
And so he used the hypnosis with people at his pharmaceutical corporation getting contracts signed to act out the story and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. All for his daughter.
That was, of course, largely due to the ongoing reconstruction of the town.
How much reconstruction?
It wasn't anything on a big scale. I simply paid people to move in and act out their roles.
Oh, right. He paid people at first. Actually, aren't people that are getting... No, they're just given new lives, that's right.
But I began to think that I would need more than that. The story had to be real. To make a lie seem true, you resorted to even more lies. Yes, I was certain that was the only way. How did I do so? I remembered about Newton's research. He was working on a certain medicine. It was a kind of tranquilizer made from local plants that he was testing at the time. But it was difficult to put into practical use. The substance had a danger of causing unconsciousness and hypnosis. I can see how that could be abused to cause much harm, supposing it fell into the wrong hands.
Which then makes me think... Would the British government really pay for something like this to be used or something? Because that seems a little dark for Great Britain to, well, England to be doing, because, yeah, I wouldn't think that. I mean, I could see some of those other countries that are in a dictatorship do that maybe, but not so much. No, I'm not getting into politics. Screw that.
At the same time, it was just what I needed for my ambitious project. I contacted the government, and that was the beginning of what came to be known as Project Labyrinthia. A town with human test subjects, all in a state of long-term hypnosis. You devised that plan solely for the sake of your daughter? Yes. I'll answer you shortly. Yes. We acquired the land which had been laid to waste by the fire. The new town was slowly becoming populated. Gradually, the rules of Labyrinthia were established. It was to be a town where magic and witches were reality to the residents. All of this was possible thanks to the drug. The test subjects were exposed to it. Though the ink you used to pen the story... Through, not though. Through the ink. That's right. It was the dangerous drug developed by Newton. About 10 years have passed since then. Even now, the town continues to change.
Man, that lag. That was actually the game lagging. Like, with frame rate. frame rate, not that other word. Quit dotting me off for saying that. Thanks, game.
Project Labyrinthia. And all this was done for one girl. Espella was the only able to be herself when she lived within my story. Oh, the irony of it. Only within a world in which Espella was real could Espella's tragic memories be sealed. And all this while...
Which is kind of funny. If Phoenix would have brought his Magatama, or however it's spelt and pronounced, if I saw the spelling of it, I would know. If he would have brought that, he would have been able to seen those cyclocks that keep those subconscious memories locked away.
Eve was assisting me.
I was the first shade. As soon as the story began, I disappeared from the scene. If Espella was to see some magic, then someone had to don this robe.
That's the robe of invisibility. I gave Espella new memories so that she could live in this town with everyone else. I also sealed the memories of her friend, Eve.
What?
My existence was far too strongly connected to a memory of the fire. Afterwards, I returned as Darklaw, a stranger to Espella.
But even if you were doing this for Espella's sake, that's just going too far!
I made that choice. I do not regret the past 10 years. Meanwhile, my father was supporting Labyrinthia behind the scenes in his own way.
Do you mean his contributions as an alchemist?
Which, aka, because he was into the pharmaceutical scene in, yeah, he was into pharmaceuticals and making medicines and stuff, became the alchemist of the town.
My father's knowledge of medicine was indispensable for this town to function. The hallucinogenic ink was my father's work as well.
So it was. Even Eve sacrificed more than anyone else for the sake of Espella and this town. I will be forever indebted to them.
We wanted to save Espella, just like you.
But then, there's still something I don't get. Why were you trying to destroy this fake world, Eve? In the end, you chose to betray Espella and Mr. Cantabella.
Oh, but I've told you already, have I not?
It was your revenge against Mr. Cantabella for choosing to end the story, correct? I wonder whether that was the true reason.
Professor?
Would Miss Belduke really betray them merely because she did not want the story to end? I dare say there was another considerably more important reason.
Pretty sure you all should figure that out by now because of what happened several trials ago, actually. She had another reason? Actually, not several trials ago. Last trial.
No need to frown with dismay, Mr. Wright. Please, leave this to me. Well then, let's hear what the Inquisition has to say. What other reason led the witness to betray Mr. Cantabella?
The reason? Her father's suicide.
Have a look.
Have a look. This letter was Miss Belduke's real motive. What is this? I think I've seen this somewhere before. Like, in a trial we recently done, actually.
That's the letter written by Mr. Belduke for Mr. Cantabella. It's also Mr. Belduke's suicide note.
My dear friend, I hope you can forgive me for leaving this world of my own will. What I have done cannot be forgiven. I can never escape from it. Something was tormenting Mr. Belduke. It became too much for him to bear and drove him to suicide.
These past 10 years, I thought my father was glad to be helping Cantabella. But little did I know, he was suffering terrible anguish all that time. Cantabella twisted the lives of so many people for the sake of his daughter. Was the story not but a glorified lie? Stripping so many of what little happiness they had left. Or what they had. All those years, Father was racked by a crushing sense of guilt.
His agony culminated in the incident of 3 months ago. Mr. Belduke's death.
Before Labyrinthia was created,
Let me just say, that bell tower is really, like, really fireproof. Holy crap.
certain things had to be concealed in order to seal Espella's memories.
Such as the bell tower, which I still don't understand how no one stood over in that bell tower's region for 10 years. Like, how did that came to be? It seems that there's a kind of a plot hole there because it's just a blank field right in the middle of town that no one ever stepped on unless they were hypnotized not to step on it. Because otherwise that seems really hard to not step on it.
Had she seen them, she would have remembered. They were simply too dangerous to her. One of them was me. Espella's friend Eve had to be reborn as a shade and disappear into the forest. The next thing was the bell tower.
I see. Had she seen it, it would have been certain to stir up those traumatic memories. Memories of the legendary fire.
The only way to prevent that was to erase the bell tower from Labyrinthia.
But how could you do that? I mean, wouldn't we just stand over there?
Using the same method as with this robe.
Just a bigger robe. Hence why it burned up after that lightning bolt, but it doesn't explain why the bell tower, which looks like it's made out of wood, would still be there. The robe of invisibility.
In short, he covered up the tower with a huge robe. Although it wasn't as easy as it sounds.
In other words, the bell tower had been there all this time. Only the townspeople couldn't see it. Is that correct?
Indeed.
I don't know what to say. At any rate, the situation changed due to that lightning strike 3 months ago, did it not?
It was a most unfortunate accident. The lightning set the bell tower's cover on fire. Don't know how it didn't set the bell tower on fire, just like how the bell tower didn't set on fire during the Great Fire years ago, but either way, I guess it's made out of metal or something. That cover was quickly consumed by flames, revealing that abominable bell tower. The beginning of all of this, the bell of ruin appeared before us. 'Twas mockery of our efforts.
That tower emerging from the flames must have seemed like a sign of divine anger to Mr. Beldu. A sign that no matter how you attempt to conceal your sins, the truth will eventually float up to the surface.
Having realized this, Father chose death.
Kinda drastic, wouldn't you say? Like, living a certain lie only because you were trying to protect someone, though. But, yeah, that seems a little tragic, wouldn't you say? Like, not tragic, I can't even think of the word. That's going too far, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to get at, though.
He was such a kind-hearted man. I didn't have an inkling of what he had been going through. Or, I didn't have an inkling of what he had been going through! To him, the participation of Labyrinthia's people within this project was not voluntary. Even though they had themselves signed the contract, I believe he felt those people were being deceived.
Scratch! Father took his life because of you, Cantabella! Now you know why I did what I did. I lost my father 3 months ago. That day, my revenge began.
Your revenge?
The first step of my plan was to rewrite the story.
What did you say?
As president of Labyrlum Incorporated, you had to spend most of your time in London. What does that mean? That means, over the past few years, you were coming to Labyrinthia only for the parades. So naturally, I knew you would never notice if the story was slightly changed.
That explains it. I couldn't help thinking there was something strange going on. Mr. Cantabella is Espella's father, after all. Exactly. I mean, after hearing all this, kind of makes sense that he would never subject his daughter to being the witch, because he's trying to protect her not being the witch, and he wouldn't have made Espella a witch in his story. That would just bring back the horrible memories.
Espella was a witch! When did that happen?
How could you have known after all? Let me fill you in on the details. Espella has already been tried once within the witch's court. Hell, she was even tried in London! And I can't believe you didn't even notice that.
Impossible! Why? How could you? You knew the risk that would carry!
Look at you! What a fine author of that grand story you are! Giving the little story to me to do now! You left all the work in Labyrinthia to me! Meanwhile, you were making millions for yourself in London! What a pathetic excuse for a father! You didn't even notice that your precious little Espella was in such danger.
Miss Belduc, why did you do that to Espella?
Do you even need to ask? I did it to unlock her memories.
You mean...
When the legendary fire took place, Espella was so traumatized that she closed herself off to the world. We were just little girls then. That tragic accident was too much for us to handle. This fictitious town was created as a facade to keep the truth away from Espella. But the weight of all these lies led my father to his suicide. Despite that, the person responsible for all this carried on as if nothing had happened. I couldn't forgive him. As Belduke's bereaved daughter, I had to have my revenge against both Cantabellas.
Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold the phone. Let's just back it up a little bit. Now, I could understand going after, Mr. Cantabella, the storyteller, because of making all those lies, and pretty much he would be the blame for his death. But going after Espella, I think, is a little too much. I mean, that would, in my honest opinion, that would pretty much be like going after someone that is depressed and taking away their medication, like, without them knowing or something. And then they were going back to being depressed and having suicidal thoughts, pretty much, if they were that depressed. So yeah, I don't see why both Campbells. Maybe the father, but going after your best friend and trying to get her to, and trying to make her be what she was back in the past, which she is right now, I think that's a little too evil there. That's just kind of uncalled for there.
Scratch! I don't care! Judge, this is the whole truth. Now you know the true identity of Bezella.
Objection!
You say this is the whole truth, but is that really the case? Professor,
What are you going on about now?
we have been provided with a clear picture of what happened to Espella so long ago. Nevertheless, we haven't yet heard your testimony.
Don't be ridiculous!
This will be the last testimony in this trial. Tell us about the night of the legendary fire. I request that you tell us your story.
Who do you think you are? Inquisitor? Who the hell do you think you are?
Who the hell am I? Who the hell am I? I am just your
Natural.
smart puzzle-loving gentleman, of course. I am merely one of the supporting characters within this tale. However, I am very much interested in puzzles and the truth. This has been a very long trial. So long that you've had 5 penalties to go on for the past, what? Chapter 8? Chapter 9? I think it started since Chapter 8. I don't know, but this has been going on for over 2 chapters now, and you've only had 5 penalties to work at. 4 of which that you can use, but once you use that 5th one, you're screwed. The court demands that the single other witness of the legendary fire provide us with her testimony.
Now, what wouldn't make sense is that if you get a game over, it seems like at this point, everyone knows that what's up now. So if you get a game over, the only thing I can think of is Phoenix is in a corner crying because he screwed up, and the professor is deemed the guy that solved everything, and so he's in the background being hip hip parade at, and Phoenix is just like in that possession with his arms and knees on the ground with his head down.
Very well. There is only one truth. Nothing can change of that.
Truth about the legendary fire. The final testimony.
Espella wanted to ring the bell no matter what, so we went up to the belfry, of course. The festival celebrations had already started. The mechanism for ringing the bell was at a height even we could reach.
Seems kinda bad for security, considering it's like you should have two security things are better than one, when you need the pendant to get up there, and it seems like you would have had it high enough where kids couldn't reach it.
The next thing I remember is coming to and running to Espella's side. I was shaking her until she finally opened her eyes. The next moment, we saw that nightmarish view. All strength abandoned us, and we didn't know what to do. That was when we were found by Father and Mr. Cantabella.
The bell could only be rung with a special mechanism? That's right. It was made in such a way that even a child could use it.
Oh, how the irony. In hindsight.
It was probably constructed by my father. I suppose he wanted to make it possible for anyone to ring that bell.
For being someone really smart and able to make medicine and stuff, you would have thought that someone that was that smart would think not everyone should be able to ring that bell, considering it's supposed to be a very important symbol of the town.
In light of the events that followed, that was clearly a very foolish decision.
Yeah, it was.
A mechanism for ringing the bell. I noticed something like that on a pillar when we went to the belfry earlier. I'd better make a note of that in the court record. Oh dear, fate can be certainly cruel. I have to agree. If only we had not discovered those ruins and brought that bell to our town. Or if only we could have deciphered those ancient writings a little earlier and not brought the bell before deciphering those ancient writings. Moreover, if only the groundwater in this area didn't cause that strange condition. Unfortunately, Mr. Cantabella, the tragedy occurred. All that remains for us to do is seek out the truth. Not for the sake of vengeance, but for the sake of the future. Mr. Wright.
Yes?
You have been fighting fiercely to uncover the truth. This is the final interrogation. I trust you know what to do.
Leave it to me.
To be honest, I have no idea what lies ahead. But whatever it is, there's no question we need to get to the bottom of this. There's got to be light at the end of this tunnel. to ring the bell no matter what, so we went up to the—
Whoa, hold it. You needed both pendants to access the belfry, correct?
Espella asked me to bring my mother's pendant, so I did.
That wasn't the only requirement, however. You also needed to solve a puzzle in order to use the contraption.
I've always been a master puzzle solver. For me, it was child's play. Literally. She solved it when she was a little girl.
What's your excuse, Nick? Hey! I have different talents, such as yelling objection and yelling at people. Also showing off my badge, too.
Espella and Eve were best friends at the time. Eve is 2 years older than Espella. She used to be like a big sister to her. So, the two of you went to the belfry. What happened next?
The festival celebrations had already started. The mechanism for ringing the bell was at the height even we couldn't reach.
Hold it, wait. So even a little girl could ring the bell?
Yes, easily.
I intended to make it so that the bell would only be rung on special occasions. That's exactly why I put that puzzle in place to restrict access. You also divided the key to the belfry into the 2 components as an extra precaution. I was careful, but the same cannot be said for Newton, who constructed the mechanism as a whole. He presumably wished to make it so that even our young daughters could use it, meaning strength was not a requirement. And that became his undoing. By the way, how old were the girls at the time? Espella was 6, and Eve was 8. I see.
That mechanism was the last thing I saw before falling unconscious. And then the next thing I remember is coming to and running to Espella's side.
Whoa. Do you remember that you fell unconscious after the bell was struck?
Yes, I believe so.
A peculiar condition causes an instant reaction. The brain probably doesn't even have the time to register the sound before consciousness is lost.
It was almost as if a slice of time had been stolen from my life. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor. I lifted my head and saw Espella lying nearby. I sprang to my feet and ran to her side.
And what about the situation in the town at that time?
I was preoccupied with Espella, so I didn't even notice the fire burning around the town and all around us to begin with.
At that time, was Espella still unconscious?
Yes, I panicked a little and took her in my arms, hoping she'd wake up. I was shaking her until she finally opened her eyes. The next moment, we saw that nightmarish view.
Hold it! So it was you who woke up Espella up, witness?
Yes, it was me. Didn't I just say that? She was out cold, curled up on the floor, until I shook her awake. As soon as she came to, she turned to look at the town, to that nightmarish view stretching out before us.
When you say nightmarish view,
I can find no other words to describe it, of course. We froze in terror at the sight of the burning town. It took us a while to notice that smoke was creeping up the bell tower, too. Our eyes filled up with tears, and we couldn't stop crying, perhaps because of the smoke. The town seemed like a fire dragon's playground. I was trembling with the terror, unlike anything I've known before.
Dear me, merely imagining it now raises the hairs on my beard.
Our strength abandoned us, and we didn't know what to do. That was when we were found by my father and Mr. Cantabella.
Oh, hold it. Oh, you didn't leave the belfry until their arrival?
Of course not. We were paralyzed with fear. It was an event so traumatizing it still haunts us. Espella fainted again when she saw the fire dragon. I was crying and wailing until our fathers found us.
We went to the bell tower, as it was a good vantage point. We weren't expecting to find our daughters there. Of course, neither suspected at that point that the disaster had been caused by the Bell of Ruin. Eve was in tears, sobbing violently. As for Espella, she was in a daze, her face frozen in an expression of disbelief. She didn't know what was happening around her.
I cannot say this with certainty, as my memories are a little vague, but I think I was trying to protect her.
Hang on! Mr. Cantabella? Hey, don't give me that dirty look. You look like you're about to frickin' glare at me. Well, you're already glaring at me, but you look like you're going to scratch me with those golden nails of yours.
I remember that well, as if it happened yesterday.
Cantabella?
Would you mind telling us what you saw?
Eve! Espella! Are you all right?
Daddy!
Eve! What on earth happened here?
It was Bezella! Bezella the witch!
Wait, why did they show Espella's face when it was Eve that answered? I still don't get that. I think that was just a picture they could use without having to worry about making another picture.
Bezella? What are you talking about?
Bezella comes out whenever someone rings the bell, right?
What have you done? You didn't...
Oh, please, Mr. Cantabella, don't be angry at Espella.
You said it with the most serious look on her face. Please, Mr. Cantabella, don't be angry at her. When she said that, I grasped the situation, and I realized what had transpired in the belfry. And I thought to myself, I must protect these children.
Eve. I'm so sorry, Eve. Espella?
Espella! Sweetie.
Dad, please forgive me. You've done all this for me.
Espella, you're with us again!
All this for me.
Well, well. At last, it would appear we are one step away from the truth. Professor, you seem to already know what that truth is. Do I? That remains to be seen. Continue with the interrogation, and we shall all know soon enough. Very well. The court agrees with Inquisitor Layton. Witness, continue your testimony. As you wish.
So, this is the part where you pretty much have to press everything again, or... Yeah, because there's absolutely no changed dialogue whatsoever. However, if you, let me just show you here. Let's see. This is the one you press, because, yeah, I won't waste your time, or waste my time, I should say, because I would be pressing this, and then pressing this, and then get to this, and finally, hold it! Do you mean that you fell unconscious after the bell was struck?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, the big difference to this statement compared to before, Espella finally woke up because, as you can tell, she doesn't have those blank eyes anymore. Instead, she's crying. Yay. So,
Yes, I believe so.
Our peculiar condition causes an instant reaction. The brain probably doesn't even have the time to register the sound before consciousness is lost.
It was almost as if a slice of time had been stolen from my life. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor. I lifted my head and saw Espella lying nearby. I sprang to my feet and ran to her side.
and what about the situation in the town at that time?
I was preoccupied with Espella, so I didn't notice it to begin with.
At that time, Espella still unconscious.
Yes, I panicked a little and took her in my arms, hoping she'd wake up.
That was not the right one. Okay. Was it this one?
Hold it! I forget which one it was!
So it was you who woke Espella up, witness.
Yes, it was me, of course. I just told you this like 5 minutes ago. She was out cold, curled up on the floor, until I shook her awake. As soon as she came to, she turned her look at the town to that nightmarish view stretching out before us, and
There it is. Which... Why are you not... Stop! Why are you freaking... Thank you! Why was it... I dragged it all the way to Espella, and then it's like, nope, you're going to Mr. Canspella. Nope, you're going back to Darklaw. Storyteller, Darklaw, Storyteller, Darklaw.
Stop moving and just go to where I'm pointing directly at you.
Hang on!
Hang on!
Excuse me, Espella?
Espella, are you okay? Yes, everything's fine.
My apologies for bringing back such troubling memories. Nevertheless, you must endeavor to face them and overcome the power they hold over you.
Yes, I remember it now. The fire dragon. I summoned it because I'm Bezella.
No, Espella, it was just an illusion.
No, you're wrong, Dad. It wasn't an illusion. It was a fact. If I hadn't rung the bell, none of this would have happened. Bezella is the bringer of disaster, and that's what I've done to our town.
Ow! accused has run away!
Quick! After her!
She's run to the bell tower!
Darn it! She's locked herself in! We can't get the door open!
It's no use! We'll have to break down the door to get in!
That girl! She's gone and just built herself!
What?
Stay away from me!
Frickin' storyteller looked like he was gonna have a heart attack.
Espella!
Espella, be careful! It's dangerous up there!
Please, Espella, come down!
I'm sorry, everyone. I have no right to be here anymore. Nick! Espella's going to do something crazy! I can just feel it!
I can see that, obviously! What the heck can I do?
Espella, please do not make any hasty decisions.
Mr. Layton,
The truth is so close now. Be brave for a little while longer.
the truth? As if it wasn't clear already. If I hadn't rung that bell, everything would have been fine.
Objection.
You may be mistaken. You still don't know the whole story.
Huh?
Isn't that so, Mr. Wright?
I had the same feeling when I was listening to Eve's testimony, actually. Yeah. I felt something was not right.
Really?
I thought that was pretty much it!
The pieces of the puzzle that don't yet fit are themselves the hints to the solution.
No way. You mean Espella didn't ring the bell? What? Nonsense! Of course she did!
As it stands, it's hard to say for sure that she didn't ring the bell. However, we've got evidence that will clear any doubts.
Show us this so-called evidence you claim to have, then. What do you think proves that Espella didn't ring the bell?
I didn't do this in my original playthrough, but I just now noticed there's no penalty, so... There's the pendant! Take that! This! What was that? It's so windy that I missed what you just said. Oh, the cold shoulder. It sounded like, take that, but I assume I misheard. It sounded like, take that? Huh? I did say take that.
Oh, I assure you it was just the wind, Miss Spellduke. Isn't that so, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, the wind.
Looks like they're turning a blind eye to your mistake, Nick. Don't waste their generosity and get it right next time.
What really happened in the belfry when Espella was little? I don't want to be looking like a fool again. Can't be proven with the evidence in the court record alone. That thing in the belfry, along with another piece of evidence, can explain everything!
Don't make me laugh. You're as delusional as Espella.